All right, we're going to be looking at manifold tees in this video, Dura versus the Spears. We're going to only talk about these two. There are other companies that make them. There's some Orbit ones that are going to be like cheap knockoffs and some Action Machine ones, which I don't use. My supplier doesn't carry them. Your supplier most likely carries one of these two, probably the Dura. They're really easy to find out there. There's a lot of them out there. These are 1-inch manifold tees meant to go on one inch valves. They make it just monumentally easier to replace valves, replace broken tees on valve fittings if that stuff's broken. Makes it compact so you can fit a lot of valves in a box really close to next to each other, but you also just replace one valve if you had to without rebuilding the whole manifold. They're going to come in a variety of manifolds, from crosses, elbow that's swivel by thread, an elbow that's swivel by swivel, looking like this. They have caps. I'm not really a fan of just putting caps on ends. Like, that's not a lot of water to trap, but in the freezing climate, we want to trap as little water as possible. So, which one's better? Is that an easy question to answer? Like I said, the Dura is going to be more available. I searched it out. It's going to be more available a lot of places. I only found the Spears, like, one place to give me a price besides the Spears website. On the Spears website, it prices the Spears tee at $9.91. PVC tee that's similar is $6.87. People use it because it's cheaper. Did find the Dura just in the shopping search. Ones that I dove deep in, found the Dura as cheap as $6.95. Not a lot of savings from the PVC, huh? But the Dura was $8.97, so it is a little bit cheaper. I know from my supplier the Dura parts are cheaper. So great, it's cheaper, it's better. Like, we're gonna use the cheapest one, right? Yeah. Oh, if that was true, we'd be using PVC and not having the convenience of switching out a valve. So these ones are a little bit different. You can see the size of the O-ring, which is, I've had to replace Dura parts. Actually, this Friday, I was working on one, and the valve started leaking when I was digging up and hit the pipe. I didn't hit the pipe, but I tugged on the pipe and it started leaking because the water was on. And then I tried to reseal it, but actually this O-ring, you know, popped out. And this isn't the first time. You can sometimes replace the O-rings if you have the right size, or replace them out of another one. You can push it back, you know, and pop in a new O-ring and deal with that in the muddy, dirty water. But here's the O-ring out of the Spears, or the O-ring out of the Dura, excuse me. We're going to pull the much more substantial O-ring out of the Spears, which Spears website says you can hand tighten these on. You know, you can push it back. These sometimes pop out. That's kind of a disadvantage to both of these. Like, if you're missing it when you don't look at it, putting it together. But Spears says you can hand tighten it. I always tighten them down, place them flat, give it a couple extra tightens with slip joint pliers, or channel locks, which most people call it, right? So, I mean, that's that, right? The Spears has a better O-ring, so I guess it's better sealing, better function, a little bit better, a little bit more expensive a price, probably worth it for a big old fat O-ring in there to seal up and not have any problems. Yeah, but put that back in. See, it's just stretched. Doesn't fit back in ever. Pain, right? But let's take a look at these side by side. Stand them up. Fully collapsed. The Spears is a 1/4 inch longer, which doesn't seem like, okay, so fully extended, they're the same length when they're put together. You could interchange. If I had a Dura manifold and this T was cracked and leaking, I could put the spears in there. But what's nice about the fully collapsed length on the Dura is if I got really hard ground, I'm not digging in the box. It's just there. I can, you know, dig out around the T. I can just loosen one side, loosen the other, and pop this out and pop another T into place and put it in. Same thing on valve replacements. I'll cut the pipe exactly with the Duras, and, you know, as long as this O-ring stays good, you can just retighten. Usually, we're gonna add them later, but you can retighten. It's more compact, especially across and stuff. I like to keep a couple of Duras on my truck. I use mostly spears. New install, I'm choosing spears. But why do I keep a couple of Duras? Because they're more compact. I know I got to be a little bit more careful with the O-rings, but sometimes it just saves, especially cross. You got the cross coming out, and you can collapse it. You can pop a new one in and put it in, and you know, just extend it out, tighten it up, and it's good to go. Whereas this sometimes, like I had to do one, I was replacing a double T. It was a double T. So I had to dig it up, and I replaced it with, it was a double T with a cap. So I replaced it with a T and an elbow. So, you know, and yeah, and I had to dig it up and wiggle it around. Like, not that it doesn't work to get it to fit, but sometimes just these are quicker, faster. You don't have to dig stuff up with the Dura. So I do like to keep a couple around if I have a couple. Otherwise, like new installs, yeah, I'm going straight for the spears, right? And not to say I haven't installed with the Dura, and if you do use the right procedures when you're installing with the Dura, they work just fine. But, I mean, look at that O-ring. Come on. It would be nice if this one had the same size O-ring, but I'm guessing it would, you know, fall. Like, the fatter O-ring just gives that extra 1/4 of an inch, I guess. And like I was saying earlier, if I got them here and I'm pushing back, I'll sometimes just cut the valves and say my valve actually just doesn't touch when I have the poly pipe. I won't clamp the coupling, and I'll just tighten up so to actually draw the valve in, and then I'll clamp once my manifold is all tight. Of course, I always tighten my manifolds up when I'm putting a full set of new valves in. So is there a definitive Dura versus spears, what's better? I'm gonna say spears, but there are some scenarios that the Dura comes in handy. But if I'm only gonna buy one, I'm gonna buy a bunch of spears. Dig sometimes to put in a better sealing manifold, and that's the way it is. Like, want it to seal. If you have issues with them sealing, you're just not tightening them all the way. And so, like, if I put this on like 2 turns, so if I just hand tightened it, but not a lot, and then went to go put in valves, and I put them in, and it's like this, and it's bent, like you're gonna get some spray out of here. Really gotta crank everything down. And then it doesn't move. So that's the issues people have, is just not getting them tight enough before putting valves in. Definitely better than PVC. I don't have to wait, like, I throw these together, throw the valves in, and I turn the water on. So I know a couple people are gonna chime in and say PVC's better, but get out of town. You're just cheap. Don't tell me that, because if this T cracks right here, when somebody's skid loader runs it over, because, you know, landscapers, I just want to pop the T out, pop a new one in, and be done with it. So yeah, I'm going to say the Spears. Like it's harder to find, but worth it for the big fat O-ring. So that's what you got.